In this video, you'll learn some very unique tips and tricks for making Taba squishies. This includes the viral clear cup Tabas, an EOS Taba, and a magical squishy that looks like clear slime but never gets cloudy. Compared to 1 year ago, it's much easier to buy Taba making supplies online, so anyone can get started. I spotted loads of kits on Aliexpress, so I ordered 2 of them, which I'll be reviewing here as well. The first DIY is how to make Tabas without silicone. The secret is simply aqua beads, which are sold in almost any toy store around the world. I got 1 normal kit with balls and 1 for nail art. I wanted to try the nail art set because you get different shapes, including a large heart which you can pop out of the central piece. Fill the cup with water and drop your aqua beads inside. In hindsight, try to avoid using opaque beads like these white ones here because the color tends to stick to the other ones. Now just leave everything alone until it turns into a jelly consistency. Depending on the size of the piece, it could take anywhere between 8 hours to 3 days. The hearts are very thin, so they turn squishy on the same evening. I'm just fishing this out and placing it inside a Taba bag. The regular aqua beads take a bit longer and they can even grow to the size of Orbeez. As you can see, they have a very Taba-like texture and the shape bounces back after you press on it. They're also quite sticky, so you want to keep them inside plastic. Of course, these aren't exactly the same as proper Tabas, but it's really not bad considering how easy they are to make. The next DIY is a major throwback for many people. If you were on YouTube in 2015, then you remember the absolute chokehold that EOS lip balms had on us. These are actually still being sold today, so let's take a trip down memory lane. Start by cutting off the balm with a craft knife. Before anyone complains about wastage, I'm just trying to keep this part authentically nostalgic, and back in the days, all of us simply chopped the lip balm off. Now you want to wedge the knife between the plastic grates and the base of the lip balm and carefully wiggle it out. I realize they've changed the product design over the years, so the grate is deeper and it's theoretically harder to take it apart. However, the plastic bit is softer and there's more room to stretch open the gap. I ended up using my finger to pop it out, but please be careful if you do it with a knife. Now apply some Vaseline on the inside part of the lid and screw the grate into place. Mix up a small batch of any Taba silicone. Of course, back in the days, YouTubers were making custom lip balm recipes for this step, or straight up melting gummy candies and chocolate to make edible ones. In this case, I'm color matching the silicone so it's the same as the original balm, which is sort of a condensed milk color. Then pour the mixture into the lid until it just covers the grate. Leave this to cure and press the lip balm back into place. Here's our EOS Taba squishy, which is not usable as makeup, but hopefully brings back plenty of memories for viewers out there. Now let's move on to the first craft kit for clear Tabas. When browsing Aliexpress, I noticed some listings for Taba squishy kits. They seemed a bit sus because the original price was shown as being over €100, which made it feel like a scam. The same applied to this kit because the product image shows it being impossibly huge. However, I decided to go ahead and order these so I can also tell you guys if it's legit or not. To my surprise, the clear squishy kit seems perfectly fine. I paid about €28 and I feel you definitely get enough for this price. It comes with a beautifully transparent Taba gel, some cookie-shaped plastic molds, some 3-dimensional silicone molds, mixing utensils, silicone pigment, sprinkles, and packaging supplies. Just for comparison, the second kit also arrived just fine, and the box is really big but not quite as massive as the product image. This one contains 2 bottles of regular Taba gel, a plastic mold, lots of paints, tweezers, mixing utensils, some decorations, and packaging material. One thing I noticed about the second kit is that it has much smaller bottles of silicone. This is something you have to be careful about when ordering Taba making supplies. Here's a quick comparison of the different sizes and you can see the bottle in my hand for scale. 50 milliliters is tiny and only enough to make 1 or 2 Tabas. 100 milliliters is the minimum size for a more complex piece. 250 milliliters is usually what you get when you buy silicone separately, and this is definitely a good size for making quite a lot of stuff. And of course, if you want to make tabas in bulk, then 500 milliliters is the best value for money. I would personally always take transparent silicone over the milky one because you need less pigments to create the same colors. You can also make really cool things like this squishy glass cup, which is what I'm excited to try here. Start by greasing the mold very well with Vaseline. The instructions for this kit are amazing, and it even tells you exactly how many milliliters to measure so you don't waste any material. I'm starting with 30 milliliters of clear silicone, which fills up the heart-shaped mold perfectly. Then I'm mixing 35 milliliters for the second one. This time, you're supposed to leave the last 5 milliliters to cure inside the mixing cup. This looks super satisfying once it's done. The best way to demold the cup is to flip the entire outer edge of the silicone mold backwards and then slowly ease it out. I'm really positively surprised by the quality of these molds. This comes out perfectly and we have a transparent Taba cup. For the next one, you want to take the leftover silicone from the mixing cup and cut it into squares. These, of course, are going to become ice cubes. This looks so realistic and surprisingly edible. Now I'm mixing some yellow for the mango pudding. The pigment provided in this kit worked perfectly, but that's not always the case, which you'll see in a bit. I'm mixing up a big batch of white, which I'll need for both cups. First, I'm making a whipped cream swirl using the yellow mold. Then I'm arranging the ice cubes into the second glass and filling it about 2/3 of the way up. And lastly, I'm making a dark brown for the coffee. You have to be a bit careful when making very small batches because adding too much pigment can affect the curing process. It's important to know two things about Taba silicone, which is working time and curing time. The majority of Taba gels being sold right now have a working time of 20 minutes and a curing time of 4 hours. Working time is when it stays liquid enough to pour. You can see this by how much residue is left behind on the cup. A freshly made batch of silicone like this one will slide down the cup quite quickly and keep the sides clean. If you wait 10 or 15 minutes, then you'll notice the silicone becomes thicker. It looks almost like soap and it clings to the side of the cup when you swirl it around. Sometimes it's important to do certain things within a specific window of time. In this case, I'm pouring the white onto the yellow once it's almost cured so the two colors don't mix together. Then I can also poke it around to create these creamy swirls. The next question is how to attach two pieces together that have already fully cured. You can do this by making a Taba glue, which is simply a tiny amount of both A and B. Make the smallest batch possible and apply it to both surfaces. Then join them together and wait for it to cure. Taba silicone sticks to itself, so these are firmly attached now. This next hack came from the second kit, which ended up with a few big fails. Firstly, the amount of silicone they provided is clearly not enough for all the squishies shown on the box. However, the amount of paint supplied was quite generous. At first glance, you'd assume this is identical to the pigment from the first Taba kit, but these ended up being two completely different things. The first one is silicone pigment and the second one is pigment paste. I had this exact same problem before using colors that I ordered separately. I believe that pigment paste is supposed to be used with epoxy resin and it doesn't mix well into silicone. If you notice your paint forming little balls or globules like this, then it's not compatible with silicone. It can still work to some extent, but your final piece is going to end up with air bubbles or undissolved paint. Silicone pigment, on the other hand, goes in smoothly, and you can see how easily the color disperses. In the end, I had to scrap the paint from the kit and use my own pigments to create this red tanghulu color. This squishy did cure without any problems, and I like the fact you have to push a wooden stick into it. It feels more realistic and it also helps to keep the shape together. The add-ins are also very cute and you end up with a bright and satisfying Taba squishy. However, I really don't recommend getting this product because I went back to check the reviews and apparently some kits are being sent out without any squishy gel at all. So unless you really love the design and you really want this mold, it's just not worth paying the price for the remaining items. Next, we've got tabas made from McDonald sauce packets. Use whichever one you like best and remove the lid very carefully so it doesn't rip. You also want to leave a small corner of it attached. You can basically put anything inside, such as a smaller squishy, a small toy, candy, or a waterproof picture. I'm going to use this Japanese Chikowa bath bomb because it has a spa theme, which I think would look really cute in the sauce bath. I got Hachiwari and decided to remove the base as well so you can lie down more easily. The next tip is for when you need more than one batch of Taba silicone in the same color, but you can only pour them at different times. The secret is to only mix color into part A. Sweet and sour sauce was surprisingly tricky to get correct because it's a mixture of orange, brown with a tinge of yellow. I had to use silicone pigment and mica powder to get the closest match. Once I have the right shade, I'm going to transfer some of the silicone to another cup and add part B as always. Then I'm going to pour it halfway into the sauce container and leave it to cure. Because silicone doesn't dry up, you can simply leave part A like this until the next day. Place your toy into the cup and then pour the remaining silicone on top. If the toy is made from plastic, then you have to be a bit careful when pressing it so it doesn't come out. Now we have a pretty unusual Taba that's almost like a DIY version of those vacuum squishies. To make this, you'll need one of these plastic balls, which are easily found in craft stores for making holiday decorations. This works with any type of squishy gel, but I love the aesthetic of the crystal clear one. I'm also adding some multicolored glitter to create a confetti effect. Don't overdo the glitter because you still want to have enough space to see through the squishy. Be very generous with Vaseline here because the Taba squishy is going to be very thin, so we want to demold it without anything ripping. Now pour the silicone about halfway into one side of the ball. Close it up and start spinning it so the silicone covers the inside in one even layer. So the next part can be a bit tricky. For best results, you should rotate the ball in your hands for the entire 20 minutes working time so the liquid silicone is being spread around evenly. You can also wait a bit and start rotating after 10 or 15 minutes, which is when the silicone already starts to thicken. However, the risk of this is that the silicone tends to flash cure, so if you miss the window by even a few seconds, then everything will already clump together. I tried to do this and ended up wasting a whole batch of Taba gel. When spinning the ball, you'll notice that the silicone gets thick very quickly, so you have to watch it carefully. Once the liquid is no longer moving around, leave it to cure for at least 4 hours. This Taba design is very fragile, so opening the ball too early could easily result in a hole. Once everything is ready, you should have a satisfying squishy membrane like this. This reminds me a lot of a nanobubble, but it's important not to let the bubble collapse because it could stick to itself. I'm cutting a small hole into one side and filling it up with clear slime. Once this is done, I'm going to add more silicone into the mold and then close it up. This is obviously going to seal the hole after it cures. The final result is something like this. It feels so weird but strangely satisfying. If the surface is sticky, then just cover your fingers with some Vaseline. It's like a clear slime but doesn't turn cloudy the way slime does. The Taba layer is preventing tiny air bubbles from forming, which is what turns transparent slime gray. I think this will also feel really interesting inside a Taba bag. Last but not least, we have a bubble Taba. Once again, this works with anything you like, and I'm going to use a tiny axolotl that I found in a museum shop. I only realized after filming the video that this is the same one from the Axolotl on the Pink Stairs song, so that's a pretty fun coincidence. You just need to fill half the ball with silicone and wait until the surface is cured. Add your object and then fill the empty half. Then place both sides together and wait for it to cure. I love how this one looks like a nanobubble, but it's more permanent and squishable. When you first open it up, there will probably be an air gap like this. If you want to have it perfectly round, then simply add some more clear silicone into the ball and place the squishy bubble side down. I really hope you liked this video, and be sure to check out my previous Taba tutorials if you haven't watched them yet. I've also included a bunch of tips in the description box on how to buy Taba silicone. I'm Joanna, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!